Welcome to the program, everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for being with us. We got a great show for you. You know, there's a lot of people out there that work and work and work, and they try to get whatever their agenda is. They try to get it in front of people, especially when it comes to reforming certain industries, especially when those industries are controlled by, a lot of money, giant corporations. And every now and then, you get a breakthrough. Today is one of those days. I think this is a really big day for the Make America Healthy Again agenda. The Trump administration has now announced that they're going to start encouraging states to end mercury fillings and mercury in dentistry. Now, for those of you who've been watching the program, this may sound to you like a small victory, but this is a big deal for a lot of people when you actually understand the toxicity of mercury and how we've known it's toxic for a very long time, and yet we're continuing to put it in the mouths of our children, continuing to put it in the mouths of our soldiers and our veterans. And we've done several episodes on this with Anita Thibault, and we're going to celebrate this news today and talk about it. What does it mean? This press release today, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services announced that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid sent a notification urging every state Medicaid director to phase out the use of mercury-containing dental fillings by restricting or ending their respective states' Medicaid coverage for dental procedure codes for dental amalgams. Dental amalgams are a material, we of course know, that combines mercury with other heavy metals to fill cavities, but pose health and environmental risks. This is really interesting because Anita Thibault has been on the front lines here, the cutting edge. She's been trying to get her citizen petition in front of the right eyes. It looks like she was successful in doing that. We're going to talk about it all today on the program and much, much more. The Paul Harrell program starts right now.
The Paul Harrell program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, we are broadcasting from the great state of Arkansas here on LFA TV, as well as other platforms, as well as the Paul Harrell Program YouTube channel. And so if you're watching on there and you're not watching, we would encourage you to like and subscribe to that channel. If you're watching on LFA Rumble, make sure that you subscribe to that channel and share this video. Share it far and wide. Also want to remind everybody out there that the Paul Harrell program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. The Healing Veterans Project is, of course, on a mission to give veterans non-pharmaceutical intervention for basically for all of their injuries, whether it's PTSD, nerve pain, you name it. And we do this by giving them red light therapy, photobiomodulation. And instead of, the VA doesn't want to approve these things. The VA wants to approve, pharmaceuticals, Vicodin, opioids, but they won't approve doctor-prescribed red light therapy, and that's where Healing Veterans Project comes in. And so, as a reminder, just want all of you to go to healingveteransproject.us and contribute if you want to, specifically monthly. And if you can't contribute, but you know of a business or a business owner that wants to partner with us, we can make something happen. Email Paul at healingveteransproject.us, because what we want to do is integrate the donation option into your point of sale or your checkout process, and I can make that happen. Email me, Paul at healingveteransproject.us. They are what powers the Paul Harrell program. All right, now, as I was talking about earlier, this is a big deal. We have had a lot of shows on this, and now we are going to go to Anita Thibault. Anita, thank you so much for being with us. I got to know you're really excited about this news out of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s office. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, I had you muted. Go ahead, Anita.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul, for jumping on this immediately. This is really extraordinary. And curiously enough, it is actually 1 year to the day that I filed my original citizens petition with the FDA to ban the use of mercury in the dental sector. So I found that pretty amazing. And when the news hit the airwaves yesterday and I saw it, I said, oh my goodness, I better check, because it seems like I filed my petition like a year ago at this time, Anyways, yeah, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And this is just the beginning, because the FDA still has not done a ruling on this. So my big thing is I want to see where they're going to go and what they're going to say, as well as the American Dental Association, because as you know, the ADA says it's a safe and effective restorative treatment. Oh, and there it is. The
Okay,
citizens petition.
let's just take this one at a time. Citizens petition from Anita Vasquez Tibau to the Food and Drug Administration, July 22nd of 2025. That's when you posted this. I know you came on the program. We talked about it. This is something that you are going to do. Now, is this the same petition that you got some legal jargon like runaround on, or am I getting confused?
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. So probably a few months ago, and you had me on your show again, the FDA responded and they said that procedurally I had failed in several areas. I corrected the procedures and I sent it back, and I have not received a response from that secondary notification. But what they did say in their original return to my original petition was that they were still not settled on whether to ban mercury in dentistry nor allow NBMI, which is the compound that was originally developed by Dr. Boyd Haley and was used successfully on millions of doses to chelate mercury toxicity as well as other heavy metals. So they never responded to those two issues. And now that this came out yesterday, my big thing is, what is the FDA going to do with my petition? So I immediately sent an email to the head of the dental device department. And unfortunately, it said, I'm out of town. I won't be able to respond. But I will get a response to that. But they're going to have to answer to this.
Yeah, well, the reason I laugh is because, we've talked about ad nauseum how, in general, the medical industrial complex doesn't want to change at all. I mean, when you highlight that one of what they're doing is actually harming people instead of helping people, they all want to act all defensive because there ends up being a lot of money at stake. And that is also true in this dental industry, because we're going to talk about the corporate side of dentistry here in just a minute. But that's also true here. And so I'm sure they're actually out of town, but it's just funny how all of this seems to work. I actually have the clip of Robert Kennedy announcing this. Do you want to listen to it? You want to play it for the audience? I think it'd be a good idea.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. Are you kidding me?
All right. Okay. So let's pipe this in. This is Robert Kennedy Jr., and I think Dr. Oz is in this as well. Take a listen.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary. Today I'm joined by my friend and colleague, CMS Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz, to announce an important step to protect the health of the American people. Today, CMS notified every state Medicaid director and urged them to help end the use of mercury-containing dental fillings.
For decades, dentists have filled cavities with a material called dental amalgam, which combines mercury with silver, tin, copper, and other heavy metals. Over time, evidence has shown that mercury exposure from dental amalgam could pose risks to vulnerable populations, like pregnant women, their babies, women trying to become pregnant, children under the age of 6, people with neurologic diseases or impaired kidney function. Mercury exposure places these groups and others at elevated risk for a range of health complications. When mercury accumulates in the body, studies suggest that it might contribute to birth defects, autoimmune disorders, behavioral changes, neurologic problems, Alzheimer's, lots of other conditions. And the mercury vapor from dental amalgam also exposes dentists and other dental professionals to health risks during the placement or removal of cavity fillings.
Mercury in dental fillings doesn't just affect patients. It contaminates our environment. Mercury from dental amalgam enters wastewater and spreads through our air and our soil and our waterways. The federal government has already committed to phasing down the use of mercury dental amalgams by 2034 to better protect both public health and our environment. Today's notification calls on the states to help lead that effort and do it quicker. Earlier this year, the Trump administration announced that the Indian Health Services
There it is.
will transition to mercury-free restorative materials across Indian Health Service and tribal dental programs by 2027. Now we're asking every state Medicaid program to do its part by taking 2 simple, practical steps.
First, consider restricting or ending state Medicaid coverage for dental procedures that use mercury-containing dental amalgam. Second, incentivize the use of mercury-free resin-based composite filling materials instead. Studies show that when dental practices go mercury-free, it's better for the patients, the practitioners, and the planet. And it protects your taxpayer dollars.
Taxpayer dollars should support the safest, most modern care available, not outdated materials that contain mercury. We have better alternatives, and it's time that we start using them. Let's protect patients. Let's protect dental professionals. Let's protect the environment. Together, we can make America healthy again.
All right, again, that's Robert Kennedy Jr. I need to tip out your reaction to that.
It sounds like I wrote it. I'm telling you. When I heard it the first time, I'm like, oh my God, it's really so much of what I've said in my citizen petition and all of these agencies that I had submitted it to, you know, with follow-up and the CDC, NIH, HHS, the whole gamut of all of these agencies that are interconnected. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled because now no one can run and hide from this. It is out there. It is out there with Bobby Kennedy. It's out there with Dr. Oz. It's out there with President Trump. Where are you going to go? I mean, this has to stop.
Exactly. And he even said, I mean, it was interesting. He even talked about how we've committed to getting rid of this by 2034, which, you know, is far too long considering all the other first world countries are not doing this anymore to their own citizens.
Right.
Then he even talked about what we discussed this, I don't know, the last couple of times you're on the show. They've come out and said that that Indian reservations can't do it anymore. And so if you can't do it in Indian territory, but you can still do it here, well, that doesn't make any sense. And so this is a long time coming, and I'm glad it's happening. But what's going to happen? I mean, is there going to be pushback? I mean, are there people right now in the dental community that have been ignoring this, that are seething right now?
I think there's a lot of people that didn't see this coming. I certainly didn't. I'm telling you, I did not expect this. And what this does is it puts everybody on notice. Now, they're going to have to do something. My big question is, and I'm going to chase down the FDA and say, okay, now what, folks? You know, this is what the administration is saying that you need to do. Are you still going to continue to say, oh, no, but it's safe, with a list of problems that Dr. Oz just spewed? He's like, it causes this and this, it's linked to this and this. I mean, there's over 200 different symptomologies of diseases that mercury dental amalgam has been linked to. And our government, National Health and Examination Institute, no, I'm making a mistake here. It's the NHANES data, National Health Institute of, I can't even think.
I don't think anybody's going to hold you accountable for that. It's okay.
It happens when, you know, I'm thinking too fast because of so much happening within a short amount of time. But anyways, this NHANES database is the most significant database in the world, and it tracks the health and nutrition of the United States population of all demographics all over the country. And they've come out and said that over 50% of the U.S. population has mercury in their heads today. And they only investigated that number against people that were 15 years and older. And we know that little kids have mercury in their head. So let's say we have a population of 350 million. So half of those people plus have mercury in their heads today. So the big thing is going to be how to remove mercury safely. And that's a whole other real big problem, because there's not enough dentists in this country, or any country for that matter, that even have the safe removal protocols that are now known to protect the patient and the dental staff against mercury exposure when taking out these fillings. Yes, it's a problem, but if we can reach this hurdle and really stop putting it into people, that's a huge accomplishment, because it'll be consumer driven that people do it right. And that's what's, this has always been the big rub, that people say, well, if we let people know that mercury is bad and they need to take it out, and all these dentists are going to drill it out and it's going to be dangerous, because that's what the ADA said. That is what the FDA said. If it's a serviceable mercury filling, leave it alone, because when you drill it out, it exposes the patient and everyone around to more mercury. So you tell me how that makes any sense. Oh, just keep putting it in and then exposing more people, and then they'll never get it out. But we know that most people will live and die with mercury in their teeth today. That's just a reality of where we are.
Wow.
And so it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. We're on the path of doing something that's extraordinary for future generations, because we also know that mercury passes from generation to generation. So maybe one or two generations down the line that don't have mercury exposure from dental amalgam, it's going to be a better, health situation for them moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, just so folks know at home, I mean, if you've got some sort of chronic, illness that you can't get an accurate diagnosis of, you just still always feel bad. If you've never at least considered looking into, do you have mercury in your mouth? I mean, it may not be visible. Maybe you had a crown put on and, they didn't take the filling out before they put the crown on. It's at least something to consider, to think, well, maybe one of the reasons I feel so bad all the time is because of this toxic metal that's been put in my head and is slowly leaking into my bloodstream. I don't mean to be make a joke about it, but I mean, it's just kind of nuts that it's 2026 and this is still the state of dental care where we're messing with mercury, which is obviously a known. I mean, gosh, do they even put mercury in thermometers anymore, Anita? I don't think so.
No, that was banned in, I want to say 2017. It was one of the first items at the United Nations Minamata Convention on Mercury Treaty that was banned universally, which is also very curious because I've been a part of that treaty process since 2002. And when you see the items that came up, like blood pressure cuffs, thermometers, batteries, and all of these different products and procedures that used mercury, and dental mercury, and vaccines that contain mercury, which was under the name of thimerosal. Thimerosal vaccines did not make it into the treaty, and dental mercury came in under phase down approach only. You have to look at that and say, okay, so why is the only thing that goes into the human body in a global mercury treaty on a phase down approach instead of an out and out ban, when this could have been done, 20 years ago?
Wow, that's
it's shameful.
Insane.
It's shameful.
That is crazy to me. Did you?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I don't think the chat knew that we banned mercury from essentially appliances, from tools.
Mm-hmm.
Had the opportunity to ban it from being in our biologically, like banning it from being in our bodies, and we chose not to. That is wild. That is crazy. And I think the reason why is what you hit on. It's not just the dental thing. I mean, yeah, that's a big deal. But if you're gonna ban it from putting it in your teeth, you would also ban it from vaccines. I mean, that's the next logical step. Sounds like they didn't do it because it would lead to a path where we don't take pharmaceutical companies' vaccines.
Well, that didn't make it in the treaty. And I was there front row center when that discussion was shut down. They said, oh, no. The WHO and their spokesperson said, oh, developing countries, they have to use mercury because they don't have the ability to store single-dose individual vials of vaccines because they needed cold storage. I mean, there was some kind of crazy excuse like that, and it didn't get in the treaty at all. So the only two products that go into the human body, one was on a phase down with a never-ending date at the beginning, and the other was vaccines that didn't get into the treaty at all. So this has been quite an experience for me, because you have to go to these meetings and you travel around the world and you try to convince individual countries, because that's the only way you can actually be of service, because they're being lied to by the quote unquote regulatory bodies like the WHO, which we're no longer part of, thank God. I mean, they're all criminals. It's nuts. It's nuts. And I'm not afraid to say it, because I was there and I saw what was going on. And the cover-up was just outrageous. And you have to wonder, there was a huge contingency of mothers with autistic kids and people that really had a huge understanding of vaccines, 20 years ago at the UN. And it wasn't even in the treaty. So it's a big deal. But I'm really surprised that they were able to eliminate mercury in vaccines first before they addressed the dental mercury. But this was only a question of time. With that last year, the Indian Health Services banning mercury in 2027 in dentistry, there's nowhere else to go. I mean, you can't poison the majority of the population and allow a group not to be poisoned. And it's a straight fact.
I'm glad that you bring that up. I mean, because that's exactly what's been going on, and people are so, doctors aren't, yeah, you're right. Doctors are not supposed to poison you. And yet this is what has been legal for our entire lives, right? What else are they doing that's poisoning us is what I would like to ask. So offline, we discussed, well, I know we did a whole show on the Casa Pia study. There was this Mercury study that went on. Nationalfile.com did a story on this. Noel Fritsch, give him credit for the great work that he did, highlighting the fact that years ago, decades ago, there was a study done called the Casa Pia study out of the country where they were testing mercury on kids, and in some cases orphans, and the orphanage the kids were staying at, these kids were being sexually abused and trafficked, okay? This came to light in the middle of the study, and they didn't stop the study. They kept going with the study, which makes you think the sexual abuse was the design by design. It was the feature, not the bug, is what it makes me think. And then they lied about what they found in the study. They lied and manipulated the results to say that mercury doesn't harm kids when in fact it did. My question is, has the government, has RFK Jr., have they acknowledged that study was bogus?
Well, that's where, your podcast and our, sharing this on all of the social media platforms that we have and just disseminating this information to the masses comes in, because the Casa Pia study was designed to show that mercury dental amalgam did not harm kids. The fact that these kids were also molested, and they knew this during the study because I did a FOIA request, and I have the documents that show what was the correspondence between the researchers and at the head of the funding of this at NIH, Norm Braveman. He knew. And this happened in 2002. And the kid that went to the police and disclosed this, he was also a victim of mercury toxicity. So, he was a brave young kid at 10 years old saying, listen, I was molested by these people, and I was also part of the mercury study. This is really, really huge because they used this study to perpetuate the use of mercury for another, almost 20 years. I mean, we're still in it, so it's really not banned yet.
Wow.
So when this NIH study was published, at the beginning, it was not using all of the data that they collected. They weren't looking at the right markers to show the harm that was being done. And the kids that were in the study that had problems or health problems, serious things happening, they called them outliers, and they did not include that data. I mean, it's in the research and it's in the FOIA request, but it's not really known to the public. And all of these other researchers that kept using this study as the benchmark and the gold standard to say mercury was safe, it was all based on really, in my opinion, it was based on fraud, because they didn't do what they should have done at the beginning of the study. And they should have never continued the study. Forget about the research part of it. The day they found out these kids were being molested, that study should have stopped, period.
Yes.
And it didn't. It continued.
Well, again, it's a Portuguese, there was a population of Portuguese orphans. And you just think to yourself, whenever U.S. taxpayer dollars go to fund something, and a study like this, and it's overseas. It's now outside of the purview of our own government. It's now, and it just reeks of some sort of, intel operation as well, where it's like, oh yeah, now we can do whatever we want, and we can also, get the sickest people involved in to me, it just reeks of what the type of stuff that you hear about, right? I mean, in the pattern is the same. Let's export our dollars to other countries where there's less regulations and we can get away with anything. This is the sex trafficking is kind of just goes right along with it in all of these situations. It's just it's very, very dark.
It really is, which is why I've stayed in this game for so long, because ultimately my personal goal, was always to have justice for these kids who are now adults. They're late 30s and early 40s, and I met them. I did that undercover expose with a journalist out of Portugal in 2012. So I met some of the victims, and believe you me, it was a horrific experience. And I don't know why it's taken this long, but I always said, I'm going to help these guys one way or another. And maybe now is finally the time that I'm going to be able to do this, because that's really what it's all about. Our government spent $11 million to do this study. A lot of people got paid a lot of money to do this study. But the downside is they hurt at least 250 of these kids that were on the side, the Mercury side. And we know that. We knew it then. And the fact that these kids were also being trafficked, it's just unconscionable. And it is our duty as humans, forget about everything else. When you know something, you have to do something. And something of this magnitude deserves serious, serious attention. And these kids need justice.
Yeah, and it's one thing it's one thing for the government to lie to us. They lie to us all the time. They manufacture bogus studies to lie to us. But the fact that the product of the bogus study that has gone to support the poisoning of Americans also involved the sexual rape of children. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that that's the case. But then this study goes on to be used as the justification to poison Americans, poison our vets, poison our soldiers, poison the kids. Man, I mean, that's just really messed up. And I know, the Portuguese officials that were involved in all of this, or at least some of them, were brought to justice by the government of Portugal. But it's insane. Folks, if you're just joining us, we're kind of celebrating here. We don't mean to be. We're just kind of highlighting the fact of how corrupt this is. And by the way, this is just one sliver of one industry in the medical world, the medical complex. And just look at how corrupt it is. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how bad it is in other professions within the medical industrial complex? If you're just joining us, we got the news yesterday that President Trump's administration via RFK is now urging states and their Medicaid providers there to phase out, to get rid of, to end mercury in dentistry. And so it's not banned or anything yet, but it's pretty close to being banned. Or at least this is the first step in actually doing that, and maybe ahead of the 2034 deadline, that is approaching, but a long ways off, and who knows who's going to be in the administration at that point. So,
right. But once it's gone in the U.S., it's game over for the rest of the world.
Yeah,
it was banned in 2025 in the 27 countries of the European Union. So, I mean, Brazil, they went and said, okay, 2030, we're done. And Brazil is a huge country, a huge dental industry, more than the United States and the European Union combined. So that is also moving forward fast and furious, because it's going to be 2027. We're going to blink. So it really needs to be done sooner than later. And I thank God that they've taken this stance. But there's still so much more to be done. But mercury was the top of the food chain, in my opinion, because it's poisoning everything. And as Bobby and Dr. Oz mentioned, the environmental impact, and my colleague Dr. Blanche Gruby, which is another story, she lost her license because she said, and she took out mercury fillings, and now she's fighting the dental boards to say, hey, listen, now that this new information came out and the administration is also agreeing that nobody should be poisoned with mercury, and you're coming after me. But she's not the only dentist. Many dentists over the years, including the late, great Dr. Hal Huggins, the forefather of biological dentistry, he lost his license too because he came out to say mercury is bad and it shouldn't be in humans. So this is a long road of mercury. The American Dental Association in their website says it's a safe and effective restorative treatment, and it's cheap and easy to use. But they've been saying that they live and die by that statement.
Yeah.
And
so
now
they were canceling COVID, or they were doing the COVID cancellations long before. I mean, that what you're saying. I mean, that was the foreshadowing of what we saw with COVID, saying, "Hey, maybe you should try a therapeutic." Canceled. Go get them. Get their medical license. They were doing this a long time ago with Dr. Blanche Gruby, Hal Huggins, when they were saying, "Hey, we think this is unsafe and we want to take out your fillings." Right? That's what you're saying.
Exactly. And they were right, but I did a little tribute to Hal the other day. I just posted it on my Facebook page, and the correspondence that I received, it's probably one of the most things that ever had any responses on a post. But Hal was right about everything. He was right about everything related to dentistry, and he was so far ahead of the game that people also persecuted him. And because he mentored Dr. Blanche Gruby, they came after her too. And it's very ironic because, one, Hal said, obviously, no mercury. And then he went back to school and studied immunology and toxicology. And he said, okay, no to root canals, no to dental implants, no to nickel crowns, no, 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 no. And he started these two labs. The first was Biocomp Laboratories, and the second was Dental DNA, which is now DNA Connections. And he started these labs because he knew, studying toxicology at the age of 50, he said, there's something to this. So when his lab, Biocomp Laboratories, looked at the dental materials, they're two separate entities, he always investigated aluminum. And there was another lab that was being used through the dental profession that did not test for aluminum. So obviously they had more business because so many of these dental products have aluminum in them. So much so that they don't even list as an ingredient the amount of aluminum that's in them. And doing the research, for example, these zirconia implants, they say, oh, they're metal free, but they have aluminum in them. And it's not a little bit, it's a lot. And there have been studies published showing that they have much more aluminum, and it's not even disclosed on the manufacturer safety data sheet. So this is a real big deal. But back to your statement, yes, so many dentists over the years had lost their licenses, and Blanche is still fighting to get her license back. And I'm hoping that this latest beautiful story with Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz announcing that mercury should not be in people anymore is going to be beneficial to her.
Isn't that crazy? But also, almost a year to the day, or a year to the day. When was this? This was July 22nd. So we're actually 2 days late. So it was 2 days ago. And then your study, where did I find the study? Hang on one second. I want to throw it back up there just so people can see the exact date. It's on the third tab here.
It was the 22nd. I verified it. I thought it was a day late.
Yeah. Where did it go? Well, now I can't find it. Here it is, right here. I just want to throw this back up so people can see. On the same day, a year to the day, you filed this petition. So I guess my question is, come on, Anita, Bobby Kennedy, as you call him Bobby. He had to have seen this. This had to have got. You think this got in front of him? You think he knew that this was a thing?
Bobby knew. Listen, I met him a good 15 well, it's 20 years ago by now, when he was at River Keepers in New York. And I was there with Kelly Gallagher, who recently passed away. She was a true warrior. And we worked together for many years on this whole mercury problem in dentistry. And he was so well versed on mercury in the environment. And then he learned about dental mercury. And then he wrote the book. I mean, Bobby knows more about mercury than probably most doctors or dentists alive, really. The guy is brilliant. So the pushback.
But he's not a doctor. He's not a doctor. That's what we always hear.
Oh yeah, I know. But listen, I'm not a doctor either. People say, "Oh, are you a doctor or an attorney?" And I'm like, neither. I'm a college dropout.
God bless
But
you.
I've been researching this story and this stuff for, I've published so many papers now, and one of our big papers that was published in 2019, I would write these papers along with Dr. Blanche Gruby specifically for the UN audience because I knew they didn't know anything about any of this stuff. So one of our really big papers that's been cited around the world talks about mercury from the dental sector and how it enters the environment. And it's through human waste, through cremation, through burial. When people use those green porta potties, that's sewage sludge. So there's many pathways that mercury from the teeth enters the environment. And it's really a big deal. So cremation in the UN's, their research, they said that, okay, every crematorium should have a mercury scrubber attached to it in order to capture the mercury before it enters the air. And some of the crematoriums around the world are so ancient that it was impossible. So, all of these different pathways. Oh, and the biggest one, and I must bring this forward, is mercury being sold as dental mercury, and it goes into countries to be used in dentistry, and it's sold on the black market for small-scale gold mining. And that was the real big one. That's the priority of the United Nations. Mercury.
So educate me about, I'm just curious, and maybe some of our audience are, how does mercury help with gold mining?
They take the mercury, it's usually encapsulated now, and they use it for panning for gold. And the mercury attracts the gold, and then they burn it off. So the mercury burns off, and what's left is the gold. But that mercury evaporates and goes into the air, and then it globally transports. So it's a local disposition of mercury, and it's also a global because it goes up into the atmosphere and travels. So it's a huge problem.
Fascinating.
Huge.
Well, I'll just tell this story. Thanks to you, I had a root canal removed after I did the research, and of course they found mercury in the filling or in the tooth that wasn't removed before I had the root canal, and then the crown put on. So I did that for my own health, and in so doing, I met a great biological dentist who has an incredible story. He said a couple of things. He's, because my wife was there the whole time while I was getting the tooth extraction, which was, I'll be honest, it was not a pleasant experience. Just in terms of, no pain obviously, but the pulling, the grinding, and you know how it is. So my wife was there, and of course, she starts asking questions. How did you get into doing this? And so he starts talking about a story of a young man who was on disability. They didn't know what was wrong with him. And this was at the beginning of his practice, way back in the 80s. And, they came to the conclusion that they thought I think he had like 9 fillings or something crazy. I don't know. It was a lot of mercury in his head. And he asked to take him out. And at the time, he thought, I don't agree with this. But he said, but I'm a Christian, and I'm going to do what the patient wants. I feel like I'm going to do what they ask. And so he did. He removed all the fillings. And then he came back 6 months later and was no longer on disability and was in the workforce, and was able to. He was cured of whatever was ailing him. His symptoms were gone, and he said that struck a nerve with me, and I was like, wow, I'm really onto something. And then he remembered something that happened his first year in dental school. His first year in dental school, He says a guy that was about to graduate stood up at some assembly and started asking questions about mercury safety, and they kicked that guy out of school. He was about to graduate, and because he started asking questions about it, he was kicked out of school, according to him. So, we want to talk about losing licenses and everything. That's how sensitive they were, pun intended. That's how sensitive all these people are. You struck a nerve when you start asking these questions.
Oh, they don't want. Are you kidding me? When Hal discovered through another colleague who's still alive, God bless him, Dr. Olympio Faisal Pinto, he's the real forefather of mercury-free dentistry, and he's 93. He'll be 94 this year. He told Hal in 1971 or 72 in a Mexico City at a dental conference that, hey, listen, take your sickest patient and take the mercury out of their heads and see what happens. And Hal's like, oh my goodness, no, I treat my patients with nutrition and blah, 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 and I don't think you're right. And then Olympio started to continue his story saying, listen, I can assure you that there's something up with this mercury. And so Hal did that. And when he realized how toxic it was, and this was in the early 70s, he and Olympio published Olympio's master thesis on mercury and the American disease. And when Olympio was at school at Georgetown University, they told him, oh, we can't let you study mercury in dentistry because we'd have to close 40 dental schools. That was way back then, and I believe it was in the 1950s. So then, fast forward 20 years later or so, maybe 25 years later, he gets his master thesis published, and crickets. So Hal wound up going to the American Dental Association very happy and proud and saying, listen, I have news for you. These mercury amalgam fillings actually leak. Because up until then, they always talked about they're inert. They don't leak. There's no vapor. There's no nothing. And that was a lie. And so when Hal went to the ADA, they created a war chest to get him. And they call him the most controversial and most outspoken dentist of the 20th century, which is actually a fact. The guy was absolutely onto everything. And while we talk about mercury, once we get this resolved, the entire dental sector needs to be, gutted and rebooted again. And believe it or not, Dr. Blanche Gruby, she studied with him, and they created what was called a full dental revision. And that means taking all of the garbage out of your head, all of the toxic materials, restoring the mouth as holistically as possible. And that's not with dental implants. There is, it's going to come out because the research is showing that even zirconia implants have toxicity problems. If there's a leak, or if they're not sealed properly, the bacteria gets in. It's the same. It's like a root canal, but it's an implant. I mean, it's so crazy how they create one toxic procedure or material after the next in dentistry. But I've been saying since I found out about mercury, the dentist makes you sick and you're on the medical treadmill till you're in the box. And now it's provable. But Hal Huggins knew this, decades ago. I'm just fortunate enough that I was able to know him and to study with him and to learn all of the things as much as I could with him and be able to now show the research where he was right about all of the things that he talked about, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're coming to the other side of this now where we have to start exposing all of it.
All right, well, let's continue to expose it here for a minute and talk about private equity in dentistry. You might have heard a lot about private equity getting involved in your favorite fast food chains or food chains, right? Many people talk about this, how I think one of the latest one is Jersey Mike's. Everybody loved Jersey Mike's, and now private equity gets involved, and then when private equity gets involved, things start to change, or I'm not a fan necessarily of Red Lobster, but a lot of people are a fan of Red Lobster, and private equity got involved and, then did some weird stuff with the land and then put all this debt on the company. And people just make out like bandits, on Wall Street. But let's talk about private equity in dentistry. Here's Bloomberg Television. Okay, this is their spin. How private equity is drilling into the dental industry. Listen to this.
So our third story has to do with private equity getting into dentistry. And this is a really cool story. It basically has to do with corporate-owned dental practices now being this opportunity.
Right, and you have this guy at the center, a dentist named Richard Workman, who essentially, is trained as a dentist. He sets aside his dental practice a few years back, basically to start doing these big roll-ups. And along comes private equity, which has quite an appetite for dentistry at this point. Now, when you dig into it, it makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of consolidation that's possible. This is a pretty profitable business. The cash flow is pretty predictable. It checks all of these boxes for private equity.
Yeah, I would say it's one of those stories that it never would occur to me. As soon as I read it, I said, of course.
Of course.
Right, yeah.
Why wasn't this done earlier?
We have a bazillion dollars in our safe. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's great. I mean, this is exactly what we need to do. And just real quick, react to that, Anita. Is private equity in dentistry a good idea?
God help us all, really. When these guys take over, they are asking the dentists, how much was your income this week? How much was your income per day? You need another procedure. You need another procedure. You need another procedure. You're not meeting your quota, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's the same as the medical system, too. The criminality of all of this is that they're over-treating patients that do not need treatments at all.
Yes.
And then, and it's all out there. I mean, it's out there. You have to dig around, but people don't have their eyes on dentistry because most people say, oh, I love my dentist. And they don't know that the guy's poisoning you along the way, taking your money. He's under the thumb of Wall Street, who's saying, hey, wait a minute. You only did a $2,000 appointment with this patient. Why not give him implants? Why not do this? Why not do that? And the next thing you know, the patient is sick or gone, and somebody's collecting all of that money, and it's for nothing. The patient is paying with their health.
Okay, so check this out. This is from JM & Co. Dental implants private equity. Many dental clinics that offer dental implants have consolidated into chains owned by private equity firms that have bought out much of the implant industry. Private equity firms have spent about $5 billion in recent years to buy large dental chains that offer implants at hundreds of clinics owned by individual dentists and dental specialists. Clear Choice was bought for an estimated $1.1 billion in 2020 by Aspen Dental, which is owned by 3 private equity firms. Private equity firms also bought Affordable Care, whose largest clinic brand is Affordable Dentures and Implants, for an estimated $2.7 billion. And the private equity wing of the Abu Dhabi government bought Dental Care Alliance, which offers implants at many of its affiliated clinics, for an estimated $1 billion in 2022. Private equity deals involving dental practices increased 9-fold from 2011 to 2021, according to an American Dental Association study. The study also said investors showed an interest in oral surgery, possibly because of the high prices of implants. Edwin Zinman, a San Francisco dental malpractice attorney and former periodontist, who has filed hundreds of dental lawsuits over the 4 decades, said he believed many of the worst fears about private equity owners had already come true in the implant industry. Quote, they've sold a lot of implants, and some of it unnecessarily and too often done negligently without having the dentists who are doing it have the necessary training and experience. It's for 5 simple letters, MONEY. Anita,
Everybody
what are your
follow
thoughts?
J&M and Company. It's a dear colleague of mine now, and Dr. Blanche Ruby took out her root canals and saved her life. So please follow.
Wow.
This woman she's a beast in her research, and she's helped me tremendously. And I got to give a shout out to Yolita because, you meet people along the way. And what had happened was I saw a post of Hal Huggins that she had. I had no idea who it was even. And I reached out, I did a DM, and the next thing you know, she's telling me, oh, Dr. Blanche, I'll write an affidavit saying that she saved my life. And I'm thinking to myself, you can't make this stuff up. But she is a huge advocate, and she has provided me with some stellar information including this recent stuff. Now, I found this when she started discussing with me about the private equity. This is huge. The ADA published this.
Yeah, the American Dental Association. So, I mean, they're taking note of it at least. Although, I don't trust the American Dental Association, but they are at least good. They're, for reporting the statistics about what's happening in their industry financially.
Okay, so here's another layer of all of this stuff. And I think we discussed it in the last show. It is Delta Dental that is a nonprofit. And how this is all synergistic within, the private equity firms, the, Medi-Cal and Medicaid, and Delta Dental is part of that system as one of the largest insurance carriers, but also as a nonprofit. And I believe you have the list of the top Delta Dental states and how much money that they're bringing in under the guise of being a nonprofit.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find that. I don't have that in front of me. I'm looking at it right now. Here's one from June 4th. Delta Dental invests $131 million. They've got a ton of money. Delta Dental operates as a network of 39 independent, not-for-profit, state and regional member organizations, official public rankings, top states. The largest regional affiliate is Delta Dental of California and affiliates, which covers 15 states, the District of Columbia, making it the most expansive operational footprint in the network.
And how much money? Did you see that? It's over $6 billion with a B.
Hang on, let me. That'll help it. That'll help me get it a little better. Sorry, I thought I had this pulled up, but now I am.
Yeah, ProPublica.
Okay. Hang on one second.
Yeah, but it's California's the number one. This needs to be doged. Seriously, because when you start connecting the dots, so we have Delta Dental tied into Medicaid, tied into these corporate Wall Street, takeovers, and how did they become a nonprofit with all of this money? And where is it going? Do you think that California is doing $6 billion worth of dentistry? When you start looking at the salaries of these people, it's outrageous. It is outrageous.
That is crazy to think about. The state of California is doing $6.26 billion worth of dental work every year.
Or not. I mean, I don't know. If they're a nonprofit and they're getting in $6 billion, where does it go?
Yeah, what a nonprofit, man. What a profitable nonprofit.
Yeah. And then you go down the list and you see that Washington State, Pennsylvania, I mean, all of these different states, they have billions of dollars. When you total it all up, it's multi-billions of dollars. Wow. It's outrageous.
And look, in 2023, they did $6.1 billion. 2022, $5.8 billion. 5.4 billion in 2021. So yeah, I mean they're looking to have. I'm sure this year is going to be a record profit for them.
Right. So how did they maneuver all of this stuff, all while doing probably bad dentistry versus good? I can't. It's so bad when you think about it, because they're swapping out. Okay, now it's cool. Okay. Root canals are bad. That's the majority of dentists are now saying, okay, root canals are not good. But then they're swapping it out for implants. And we know that they're not good too, because the research that's independent of anything is saying that it's not good. And a multitude of reasons why. So, the consumer has to wake up and really not be so trusting for the guys that run around in the white coats, especially dentists, because the dentists, they're beholden now to Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And this is really true. I mean, I think there was this recent story where there was a payout of like $24 million. They killed a couple of kids doing dentistry. You know, they do baby root canals. I mean, why would somebody do a baby root canal
Good grief.
for any reason?
For
You know,
any
you're
reason.
traumatizing the kids. You know, it's horrific what they're doing. It's horrific. And nobody's really talking about dentistry when it should be the first line of defense for whole body health. It really, really should be. And this is really what I'm working for. You know, it's secondary to the Casapia story because those people, they need vindication, they need justice, they need their entire health helped, taken care of. They need their mercury removed. They need full dental revisions to restore their mouths as best as we possibly can, knowing what we know today. And they need to be taken care of. They really do.
Yeah,
And
100%.
then, yeah,
So
and the dental system needs to be redone.
I want to give you the last word, but it is good news overall. Trump administration encourages states to end mercury-containing dental fillings. Anita Thibault, congratulations on your petition and your just decades-long work doing all of this, trying to get this to the forefront. I mean, it sounds like good things are actually going to happen on this specific instance, and let's hope it's an irreversible, thing where if another administration gets in, they're not going to go and reverse all of this. But I want to give you the last word about the state of things.
I truly believe that this is, we're coming down the other side of the mountain now, and it will never be able to be put back in the box ever. And thank God that Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz and President Trump had the fortitude and the strength to finally say the truth about this that it's been fought for years. I'm almost 30 years in, but there's guys like Olympia who entire life, 80 years fighting for a ban on mercury. Dr. David Kennedy, 50 plus years. Boyd Haley, another 50 plus years. Blanche Ruby, 40 years. I mean, all these people, Hal, since the 70s. Those of us that are still here deserve to see the end of this. They've spent their entire lives fighting for it. And I think, it's got to happen now because they said it. It didn't come from me. I'm just, helping to move the ball forward. But they finally came out to say the truth. It does cause diseases. It is toxic. It is a poison, and it doesn't belong inside the human body. So, bravo to them. It's time to really change the entire face of dentistry. But without this happening, there's no hope.
Anita Thibault, congrats. We'll talk soon. Just let me know with any updates, and we'll do another show. But really do appreciate you being with us. And best of luck. God bless. Keep me posted.
Thank you so much, Paul. Let's see what the FDA has to say now.
Yes.
And the ADA.
Yeah, they better get on board. We'll see. So
that's right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Folks, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a minute. We still have one more hour left in the show. Don't go anywhere. Back here in just a moment.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red 5.
This is our family dog, Bubba. He is a Shorty Jack Russell, and he brings a lot of love and laughter into our home. We just want to thank Pet Club for making healthy food and treats for our animals. Bubba has been on Pet Club food for a little over a year now. He really likes the Sequoia dry food, and then I put a scoop of the Sequoia wet dog food in there with some hot water and stir it up, and he absolutely loves it. And he likes the mush puppies, but his ultimate favorite is the antlers. Those keep him busy for a really long time, and he really likes them. It makes us feel really good that the food and treats that we give him have healthy ingredients in them because we want him to be around for a really long time. Our previous dog was a lab, and his name was Titus, and we fed him in bulk, and we would just get his food from the big box grocery stores. And unfortunately, that food wasn't very healthy for him, and he ended up getting cancer and passing away. So we didn't want to make that mistake with Bubba. So we were really fortunate to find Pet Club and find some really healthy food for him to eat. So we would just like to thank Pet Club, and we just really appreciate the healthy food that they make so we can keep this guy around as long as we can.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept! Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
Why is Red Vibe different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vibe devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for being with us, broadcasting live from the great state of Arkansas here on this wonderful Friday afternoon, 5 o'clock, 5:05 Eastern, 4:05 Central Time right now. Hope everybody's gearing up for a restful, relaxing weekend. Got a little bit of a reprieve where I'm at here in the Mid-South. In terms of the temperature, it feels like the beginning of fall. I'm told it's not going to be long-lived, that we're going to have some hotter temperatures coming in the next few days, but my goodness, it certainly has been nice. It honestly, I'm going to be real, this cooler weather that I'm experiencing right now, it's got the itch. I've got the itch. I've got the deer hunter's itch. It normally doesn't happen until August, but the cooler weather has just really got you thinking like, oh wow, the fall's going to be here real soon, and we all know what that means. There was one TikToker out there who was saying that this Arctic blast that's coming down from Canada and is, creating this cool weather is actually, going to stick around, and fall's going to get here 4 weeks early. And of course I was like, well, that sounds good. I mean, I'm tired of the heat, but at the same time, I'm like, well, does that mean that the rut is going to kick in Arkansas when it's not supposed? Are we going to miss the rut in modern gun season? Because they're supposed to kind of intersect. It's normally the first full moon in November, but that's assuming that the temperatures are right there. So anyway, we'll see. Sherry Welch says, yes, it's only 98 degrees here today with high humidity. Right now, it is 82 degrees, and it's very, very pleasant in the morning and in the evening. So it is now 82 degrees in the state of Arkansas and falling, mostly cloudy. I don't know about chemtrails. Don't know how many chemtrails are up there right now, but we'll look when we go home. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. You guys enjoyed the interview with Anita, and so I'm glad to hear that. Big Pharma is only interested in making money, not helping people. I think I definitely think that would sum up a lot of what we were talking about, how it's all about the money. That's Aaron Noble who wrote that in the chat. It really kind of is crazy. We're just looking at one sliver of the medical industrial complex, and it is just ripe with corruption and not putting patients first. So you can only imagine. You can only imagine how bad it really is. It's not as bad as it's way worse than we thought. Is what I'm trying to say, right? So we've got that. Let's see, Eileen Jimenez. We cooled off to 90s with humidity last week, back up to 112 today in Arizona. No cold front here, only supposed to be a few days. Man, I do not I do not envy that at all. I do not envy that at all. 112. What do they say there though? It's a dry heat. It's a dry heat though, not with humidity. Where I'm at here in Arkansas, I mean the humidity is what gets you, for sure. But we've got low humidity, low temperatures right now, and I'm 100% here for it. 100% here for it. Hey, I'm going to start off the hour before I get into some more politics that I want to talk about, because I want to make sure I have time for this, because I normally, towards the end of the show, will normally tell you what to do on the weekend. We hope you have a blessed Lord's Day. We hope you go to church. If you don't go to church, find a church, preach the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus Christ and his mighty ability to save sinners. Which I will say that again when we sign off, because it's Friday. But I wanted to highlight this post by a guy that I know by the name of Tim Starnes, and he's a pastor. And for a couple of days, he has been posting some really interesting stuff about heaven and about what we have to look forward to when we do die, and if you're found in Christ. And I thought this was interesting. Tim Starnes writes this: we often hear at funerals, well, Mr. Whoever is in heaven playing golf with his friends or fishing or some other activity they enjoyed while on earth. So he decides to quote Matthew Henry. He describes it best. Matthew Henry describes what we will be doing on the other side. Listen to this. Upon his deathbed, Matthew Henry wrote this note to his loved ones, to be read when he had passed. Let it encourage your hearts. Quote, would you like to know where I am? I'm at home in my Father's house, in the mansions prepared for me here. I am where I want to be, no longer on the stormy sea, but in God's safe, quiet harbor. My sowing time is done, and I am reaping. My joy is as the joy of harvest. Would you like to know how it is with me? I am made perfect in holiness. Grace is swallowed up in glory. Would you like to know what I'm doing? I see God not as through a glass darkly, but face to face. I am engaged in the sweet enjoyment of my precious Redeemer. I am singing hallelujahs to him who sits upon the throne, and am constantly praising him. Would you know what blessed company I keep? It is better than the best on earth. Here are the holy angels and the spirits of just men made perfect. I am with many of my old acquaintances with whom I worked and prayed, and who have come here before me. Lastly, would you know how long this will continue? It is dawn that never fades, After millions and millions of ages, it will be as fresh as it is now. Therefore, weep not for me. I really, really like that. I read that last night. And then I read another banger from C.S. Lewis, a quote about heaven. Quote, "You cannot in your present state understand eternity. That is what mortals misunderstand. They say of some temporal suffering, no future bliss can make up for it, not knowing that heaven, once attained, will work backwards and turn even that agony into a glory. The good man's past begins to change so that his forgiven sins and remembered sorrows take on the quality of heaven. And that is why the blessed will say, we have never lived anywhere except in heaven, and the lost, we were always in hell. And both will speak truly." Fascinating, encouraging, all at the same time. All at the same time. What do you guys think of that in the chat? Let me know, and I'll do my best to read. All right, so in other news today, a few things have transpired that have piqued my interest. Number one, and I don't think we ever actually played this on the program, but there was a white lady who named Shiloh Hendricks who kind of went off on, I think, a Middle Eastern man or an Indian man on the playground and started dropping the N-word pretty much, a bunch of times, right? Well, she was charged for that. She was charged for saying the N-word. And this was the judge that found her guilty, right? She's going to have to pay quite a bit of money. Then we have a few more reactions. This is the initial video. You guys remember this video? I'm not going to play it, but she didn't like being, give her the middle finger, and then she just starts to drop the N-word over and over and over again. Shiloh Hendricks, 37, who called an 8-year-old autistic boy the N-word. Okay, so that's the kind. I remember that part too. Then she also decided to use the N-word towards this man filming her, which we'll get to that here in a minute. She receives 200 hours of community service and a $1,000 fine. She also raised $859,000. Tim Pool says, I think most people would take that offer. Matt Walsh, in response to Shiloh Hendricks being found guilty by a Minnesota jury for using the N-word, says, quote, "Flagrant violation of the First Amendment, totally outrageous, and all of the most retarded people in the country will celebrate this verdict while still pretending they support free speech." We got more reaction over here. Let me see this. Somebody named Daniel Concanon says, let's take a walk through the American justice system. Sharmaki Omar is the Somali man who filmed Shiloh Hendricks on the playground in Minnesota that day in April 2025. In January 2022, he and another Somali man allegedly spent 2 days raping an underage foster care runaway in a trailer, keeping her falsely imprisoned. In March 2025, all charges were dismissed, quote, "in the interest of justice," end quote. Weeks later, in April 2025, he turned his camera phone on at the playground after a young Somali thief attempted to steal from a white mom, Shiloh Hendricks, and began haranguing the white mom for having said the N-word. Omar demanded that Hendricks repeat the word on camera, which she did 4 times, while Omar himself said the word 5 times in less than 1 minute video. 4 long months later, multiple disorderly conduct charges were maliciously brought against Shiloh Hendricks for the playground incident in which she was the only victim, and Sharmake Omar was the videographer. Then, last night, Shiloh Hendricks was convicted, specifically for saying the N-word to Sharmake Omar after he demanded she say it while he himself said it repeatedly. Her sentence is a $1,000 fine, 200 hours of community service. By the way, Sharmake Omar was never called to testify in the Hendricks trial, but don't worry, that's not all the justice we have in store for you today, he says. Just keep the substance of Shiloh's crime, as well as her sentence, in mind as we move forward. Rewind to April 2020. That's when Sharmake Omar, our favorite Somali videographer, along with another Somali friend of his, separate from his alleged co-raper, committed a violent assault in the street. Omar threw a rock at a car, then attacked and beat the 16-year-old driver. A bystander tried to intervene, but Omar's accomplice threatened him with a knife. For this, Sharmake Omar was charged merely with disorderly conduct. Yes, for hurling a deadly weapon at a vehicle, then beating the teenage driver while his criminal pal held off onlookers at knife point. Omar faced the exact same charge that Shiloh Hendricks faced for saying a word that Omar asked her to say as she held her child in her arms and fled the playground before Omar could assault her too. Like Shiloh Hendricks, Sharmake Omar was convicted on his count of disorderly conduct. His sentence, a $200 fine. That's it. That's the entire thing. So, to review. Rape an underage foster child for 2 days, allegedly, clean slate. Hurl a deadly weapon at a car and assault its driver, $200. Say a word to an accused rapist, kidnapper, and convicted violent criminal who demands you say it while saying it himself, $1,000 and 200 hours, not to mention international infamy. Could the anti-white standard be any more egregiously in our faces? Seriously, everyone involved in prosecuting the Shiloh Hendricks case is unspeakably evil, and this includes, but not limited to, all of the government officials and everybody involved. He goes on, while we're here, a special dishonorable mention must go to every single First Amendment organization in this hollowed-out country of ours. You know the ones. They relentlessly solicit and collect large sums of money to defend free speech while continuously, cravingly shrinking away from every meaningful case where white people, literally the only group with majority support for the First Amendment, are so clearly maliciously persecuted. Similarly, not one official at any level of government has spoken up to defend Shiloh Hendricks or her constitutional rights, nor to condemn flagrantly anti-white, utterly unconstitutional witch hunts that she's endured. Not one. And on that note, we conclude today's review of the good old American justice system. Lady Justice isn't blind, she's anti-white, and it's never been plainer to see. So shout out again to this entire post by Daniel Kincannon, whose handle is @TooWhiteToTweet. And the reason this is newsworthy for me in terms of my, proclivities and the things that I see is, and you've heard me say it before, when we talk about our founding fathers and the 18th century and the way this country was originally envisioned, it was envisioned with blasphemy laws and Sunday Sabbath laws that were on the books and were considered constitutional until the 30s, till the 1930s, till almost the mid-20th century. And I'm just a reminder that it's really not a question of whether or not you have blasphemy laws. You don't necessarily even need to have the specific blasphemy laws on the books. All countries have blasphemy laws. All of them do. All of them have, either on the books or unspoken, it's just what the culture does. They have things that you are not allowed to say. It's not a question of whether or not, the question of which one do you have? Which one do you have? It very much is a binary choice. It was perfectly legal in the founder's vision to have freedom of speech, but also have limits on that speech in the form of you're not going to blaspheme the triune God of the Bible and get away with it. You're also not going to be operating your business on Sunday because that's a Christian that's the Christian Sabbath, and that's we're going to go to church that day, and we're not going to do commerce that day. We're going to rest, as the fourth commandment requires us to. Fast forward to today, and our blasphemy laws are you cannot say the N-word if you're a white lady. You certainly can't say the N-word and not care who hears it. But that is the difference. So yeah, it is one of those things. Freedom of speech. The anti-white bias still lives on. And again, this is in Minnesota where, honestly, we know all of the documentation, all of the reporting that's come out of Minnesota, specifically with the Somalis and all of the fraud that they are involved in. So what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about this particular story? I'm sure you guys have heard about it all day. We've got Cherry Cott. Cherry Cott writes in the LFA chat, I was constantly harassed by an old Italian landlord back in the early 2000s. When I called Fair Housing, they told me since he was white and I was white, I didn't have a case. Carol A7711 says, freedom of speech has become a double-edged sword. Yeah, definitely. And yet, this is not going to... It is kind of crazy when you think about it. I mean, even in my reporting of it, how there is just this... There are words that we're not allowed to say. Carl Benji, freedom of speech unless you're white. Pretty much. That's what this story highlights in a lot of ways, in so many words. So in other news, we're going to give you an update on the Intel oligarchy. We've got Catherine Herridge over the week. Catherine Herridge, according to Overton News, has been speaking directly with a senior insider on Director Tulsi Gabbard's investigative team. What was revealed is nothing short of treason. Investigators believe they uncovered evidence of a deeply entrenched bureaucracy within the intelligence community that saw itself as a check on President Trump working to protect a globalist view. I think I actually have the News Nation report. Listen to this.
In the last week, I've been speaking with a very senior member of Director Gabbard's investigations team known as the DIG. And what they told me is that they did see a pattern where there was a sense or a feeling in the intelligence community that they just knew better. They had to save President Trump from his own instincts, from his own tendencies, and that there was very much a globalist view, and they had to preserve a globalist view. So whether it was downplaying or suppressing intelligence about the threat from China, whether it was giving a pass and calling the Hunter Biden laptop Russian disinformation, there was this level of a bureaucracy, a kind of conspiracy that was making decisions about the kind of information that should be reaching policymakers and ultimately the commander-in-chief. In the last week, I've been speaking with...
Okay, so that's not telling us really anything that we don't already know. But Sundance, or The Last Refuge, has been talking, making a lot of tweets here, responding to this Rand Paul segment. Senator Rand Paul says there's a deep state within the deep state. There's only 8 people in Congress who have any idea what the CIA and FBI are actually doing. Listen to this.
You don't get on the Intel Committee, for the most part, unless you're an apologist for the Intel community and you're unconcerned with Americans' privacy and unconcerned with abuses of power. So this is perpetuated generation after generation. There's only 8 people in Congress who have any idea what the CIA is doing or the FBI. Everyone else is kept in the dark. So when you talk about a deep state, there's a deep state within the deep state. 8 people in Congress, they're the elite 8. They're the chairman and ranking member of the Intel committees in the House and Senate, and the leader, the speaker and the leader on both sides. Those are the people that get informed and get real briefings. I've never been to a classified briefing where they really gave any classified material. Most of them are window service, and they're sort of dog and pony shows to promote one aspect of an idea, but they're not very revealing as to truly what our agencies are doing.
So you notice he said there at the very beginning.
You don't get on the Intel Committee, for the most part, unless you're an apologist for the Intel community.
You don't get on the Intel Committee, for the most part, unless you're an apologist for the Intel community, or oligarchy, as I like to call them. I don't like to give them the term community because it's it just puts out there that, you know, that they've got our best interests at heart, and they're a nice, community is a nice word. They're not nice people for the most part. So The Last Refuge, whose website is conservativetreehouse.com, says, keep in mind as you listen to this that Marco Rubio was the chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. And he also decides to follow up with that point, because I even asked Last Refuge a question about this, specifically with the Gang of 8, because, as you guys know, we've interviewed one of the Gang of 8 in this studio, sitting right there. Congressman Rick Crawford, the chair of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, is my personal congressman, and has been for a very long time. And it's pretty incredible that he has, been trusted enough to be put in that position. But so I mean, he sat right here and said that when he worked with Tulsi Gabbard, he ruffled feathers in the intel community. There I go. I said it. In the intel oligarchy, he ruffled feathers. So Last Refuge says, expanding on my point, he says, current House Intel Chairman, Hipsy, Rick Crawford, is not an intel apologist. He's closer to MAGA. After the 2024 election, Crawford replaced Mike Turner, Ohio, who was an apologist for the intel community. Do you remember that? That was pretty incredible when that happened. Turner was not good. That's why he had to be replaced when Trump won. Turn was bad news. Turner was bad news. Very bad. Crawford is okay. He gave us the Atkinson and CIA Ramella stuff. Charamella. Also, gave us that Obama essentially framed Trump for treason by ordering the fake intel assessment on the Russia news. He goes on and says, Tom Cotton, Arkansas senator, is bad news. Always was. He's a military intelligence guy, Raytheon, etc. Cotton is not MAGA. Democrat Jim Hines, Connecticut House, and Mark Warner, Virginia Senate, are also very bad news in deep state. So from the Gang of Eight, Himes, Warner, Cotton, and all IC apologists are bad news. Crawford is the lone exception. Johnson, Jeffries, Thune, and Schumer are the other four members of the Gang of Eight, all generally intel community apologists and enablers, so Rand Paul's larger argument is generally accurate. 7 of the 8 are afraid of the intel oligarchy, and then he says 1 plays dodgeball. So, and Rick Crawford, he sat right there and he's told us that when it's all said and done, it is an oversight role, it is an oversight capacity. But man, can you imagine the type of stuff that they know? But do you have, if they are doing something that's clearly wrong? I mean, Chuck Schumer, who's a part of the Gang of Eight, Trump's term 1.0. If you go after the intelligence community, these people have 6 ways to Sunday of coming after you. Literally saying that the intel oligarchy is going to get Donald Trump because he's bad for business. That's what he said. So you got to wonder. You don't have to wonder. The fact of the matter is, as inept as Congress is as inept as Congress is with trying to get the domestic agenda passed and things like that, it would behoove the intelligence community to have people on oversight that are scared of them so that they can continue to do what they want to do. But the fact that Congressman Rick Crawford partnered with Tulsi Gabbard at least twice that we know of to get classified material released is a big deal, and is a bright spot in a world where these guys are literally, the members of the intel oligarchy are literally running roughshod over the American people and still haven't been brought to heel. But there are efforts to do that. But, there's very few good guys compared to the bad guys. That much is certain on that aspect of it. Real quick here on this Friday, checking in. What are the comments? We got anything on the LFA chat? I'm looking for comments, guys. What do we got? Nothing as of yet. We got comments, but we have comments, but not necessarily related to what's going on. So that is perfectly fine. Moving on, the IRS is now threatening to seize a Tennessee man's farm for charging him interest on a $20,000 refund they accidentally sent him, but then he tried to return it. Listen to this story.
But when you need the help, you can't get a hold of nobody. You have to talk to a dang computer. Well, they called me right before I went on television this last time and said it was settled from Marshall Blackburn's office.
This notice, sent in early July, demands he pay thousands of dollars in interest on that money he says he never spent, or risk having his property seized.
I wish you'd get it straightened out and get one person to work on it instead of sending me letters all over the United States. I've cried and preached I've asked people to pray for me.
The 76-year-old says he's done everything he can to make it right, including meeting with the IRS Taxpayer Advocate Service in downtown Nashville. An effort, he says, got him nowhere.
I said, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm paying my parking bill on my telephone. I said, oh, my God. I said, I got a little old flip phone. I don't know how to do that.
It's simple what he wants, for the IRS to stop coming after him.
Is that little one?
Yeah.
He gets caught in the fence. He sticks his horns in there and can't get out.
More than anything, Kirby just wants this to be over.
That it was all over and done with. Praise the Lord. Amen. Because I've cried. I'm about to cry now. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I have connected Mr. Kirby with a Nashville tax attorney who deals with IRS disputes. They are planning to talk on the phone on Friday to see what other options may still be available to him.
Good grief, man. I mean, IRS, man. Going back to the first 5 months of Trump 2.0 when we were talking about ending the IRS because of tariffs, that was incredible. And I'll restate this. If for some reason that ever happens. Oh, W. Wilson, 1964. John Rich has stepped up and said he's going to settle it all. Wow, that's big news. That's a good. That's really, really good. Yeah, or a land grab. They were trying to do a land grab on this guy. Yeah, who knows? You know, you had that one lady in Tennessee that was trying to, they were wanting to buy her land for a data center, and she turned down a ridiculous amount of money and said, absolutely not. Good for her. But it'll be if Donald Trump were to make good on what we were hearing the first 5 months, which was the IRS is going to be abolished, that would be the largest transfer of liberty from the authorities to the people since the American Revolution. And that's just how insidious the IRS is and has become on people. So there's that. Speaking of data centers, President Trump is saying that, well, let's just listen to what he says about data centers, and then we'll talk about it.
You have communities that really want the data centers. And frankly, those are the smart communities because it means tremendous numbers of jobs, very little actual disruption. And the ones that don't want it, the happiest people in the world are foreign countries, number one, and number two, other communities within our country because they're begging for them to be there. And some of them are great communities, very, very forward-looking communities, very smart communities.
All right, so here's the deal. Then they need to go where the communities want them. If there are communities out there that want the data centers, and when we say communities here, we got to stipulate we're not talking about the city council members that have been promised everything, or they've bought up the land where the data centers are going to go, so that they're going to put gas stations there. We're not talking about that doesn't count as the community. Elected officials wanting it doesn't count. The actual community is and the actual community is the people. All of these people turning out at town halls. I mean, here in Arkansas, there's people that don't want these things. Down in Conway, Arkansas, and other places, they're saying, hey, we don't want it. Little Rock's not wanting it as well. So, I don't know. I still don't know what these data centers are for. Generally speaking, I don't know. Me and Brian Norris talked about it a little bit yesterday. It's just like, what are we doing this for, right? And I get it. There could be some, it could be very complex, very technical, but honestly, I think there's a flock camera connection. All these flock cameras are going to be processing all this data and everything that would need to happen with that, and the biometrics of the new cars, the new patents that are coming out. I mean, it really does look like 1984. And you and I both know, this is not crazy to talk about. It's not crazy to think about, because we could say, well, yeah, it'll be fine in this administration or another administration, but it only takes one. You only need one administration for a COVID to happen where they say, oh, you can't. Hey, by the way, if they tell us that we can't leave our homes the next time, we got flock cameras everywhere now. And biometric sensors coming in the new models of vehicles. I'm sorry, sir. We can't let you start your car. There's been a new pandemic. I'm sorry, sir. We can't let you start your car without wearing a mask. Don't leave your driveway without mask. I'm sorry, sir. Your child is not masked. You're going to need to mask your child before we leave. So yeah, there's that. A lot of people upset with those comments. Are this the same comment?
You have to go with it because you have to convince your community how great these things. You can't fight it. You have to go with it.
Now, I do agree with that. President Trump, you have to convince the community how great these things are. It is on the elected officials and communities to convince us as to why we need the data centers. But, I mean, there's an Arkansas hearing that I played for you a couple of days ago where the head of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission was asked, do you know what the data centers are for yet? And he says no. So even the officials don't know. We're just told we have to do it, and there's going to be all these jobs. In some cases, they're passing taxpayer benefits to companies in case they do come here, and they've signed NDAs and can't tell us which company would be relocating here, so we don't even know what it's for. Yes, Carol, you're right. It goes hand in glove with flock cameras.
Because you have to convince your community how great these things. You can't fight it. You have to go with it. And you're going to have all that protection, and we're giving you automatic protection, but you're going to make a tremendous amount of money. You're going to reduce taxes, and you're going to have something that if you don't have it, everybody else wants it. Because you have to...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think of that girl down in Georgia, she doesn't want it. The people that are being told that their houses have to be torn down, like Little House on the Prairie style, so the power companies can build, more power lines to get to the data center. They don't want it. Hey, you guys remember that Little House on the Prairie? Was it one of the finales? It's like, well, you may have bought the land, but what was on it is ours. And then they dynamite all their homes. That was crazy. Eileen Jimenez, President Trump is saying it's a race with China. Okay, that's great. I get it. It's a race with China in the AI war. Okay, all right, great. Why do we still allow China to own land outside our military bases? I would just like some consistency. If we're in this AI arms race with China, okay, but there's still Chinese businesses that own land outside our military bases. I tend to think this is really not as much about China as it's about some sort of global connectivity that defies sovereign boundaries. And that may not be what it is now, but I think it certainly will become that. But we've seen what China wants to. That's the other thing. I mean, we've seen what China does with social credit scores that they've rolled out on their people. And these data centers with AI, I mean, it's gonna make it a lot easier for them to just monitor literally everything that we're doing. Or maybe it's for something else. Maybe it's like, hey, the aliens. I would love that as an explanation. Of course, I know what I would do with that. In terms of assuming that we're now talking about demonic stuff, but I would just rather, the aliens said we have to build the, I know I'm tongue-in-cheek here, but you never know. Well, the aliens said we needed to build the data centers in order to get, I would love that explanation. Or at least something. Give me something, some sort of explanation. All right, I'm sorry. I got to go through this. I've got a lot of stories that have kind of fallen through the cracks this week on this Friday. Hour number 10 of broadcasting. This is our 10th hour on the Paul Harrell program, broadcasting. Here we go. Zero. So Jason Helms, right? We did a story on this a couple weeks ago. 0 rap songs on the Billboard. And the record-setting #1 song is a throwback country twang song about Texas. I'm starting to think that USAID created hip-hop culture conspiracy might be actually true. More people are starting to figure this out. There's this Texas country song about Texas. I don't want to get a strike or whatever, but more people are trying to figure this out. They're also now saying that USAID funding is back because now the Powerball lottery is now available for British people. The UK can now get lottery tickets. They've expanded. They've gone international. Now, do you agree with that? I think that's ridiculous. Aside from the fact that in a lot of respects, the Powerball is really just a giant tax on poor people. I have witnessed with my own eyes. Arkansas hasn't had the lottery as long as other places like Texas has. And in my home state of Arkansas, I have witnessed with my own eyes a father and a son at a gas station. The son asks for a candy bar. Son, the dad says, "No, son, you can't have your candy bar," while he puts a bunch of lottery tickets on the counter, where he wins nothing. Also, have you ever thought that this is all just? I mean, the whole idea of the Powerball and the numbers and stuff, it used to be illegal. It was literally what the mob did. It was called running numbers. Are you familiar with running numbers? That's exactly what the mob used to do. It was clearly illegal, and yet now it's embraced, and states have passed laws, and it's just kind of crazy when you think about it. You talk about legalizing vice. This used to be frowned upon, and now we've got the sports gambling, the sports debt, and everything else that's going down. I was talking to somebody at church the other day, and they were saying that actually may be one of the next things that really comes down the pike that affects young men in a huge way is going to be the online sports betting and the gambling that's going on. So I don't know, man. Wild. We're in wild times. In other news, this video is an allegory for many, many things today. Here's a woman. I don't even know what this is. A woman doing some sort of powerlifting competition. Have you guys seen this?
She's going for 145 kilos on this occasion to solidify that position on the...
Start.
She's going for 145 kilos on this occasion.
I don't even know what I'm watching now.
To solidify that position on the...
Allah, huh? Okay.
Start.
Okay, yeah, somebody that's clearly not physically fit, and she just went like this, went like from now to now, from here to here, from here to here. It's all so tiresome. It really is. It is all so tiresome at this point. Also, we've got Brandon Gill. This is the second clip this week that we've played of Brandon Gill questioning people in Congress. The first one was the Smithsonian Institute, where they had in their literature that being polite was considered white supremacy. Now they say that all people, this is now the American Bar Association, benching her own weight. Notice she has a beekeeper outfit on. That's a woman, question mark? Yeah, exactly. Also, Carl Benji says, my father-in-law was a collector of bookies money. We went to some bad hoods. Eileen Jimenez, yes, my dad used to run numbers, the number when he was a teenager in New Jersey with his uncle. Yeah, see what I'm saying? It used to all be illegal, but now it's somehow illegal to do the Powerball thing. It's so weird. But anyway, here's Brandon Gill questioning the head of the Bar Association.
According to the ABA's website, quote, all of us have implicit biases. Would you agree with that statement?
The ABA believes that diversity, equity, and inclusion improves the practice.
Would you agree with the statement that, quote, all of us have implicit biases from the ABA's website?
The ABA believes that diversity in all of its
Is that a
realms
yes?
is
Can I take
important.
that? It's a yes or no question. Do you believe that all of us have implicit biases, as your website says?
The ABA looks to remove barriers, and we examine...
That's not my question, ma'am. Do you believe that all of us have implicit biases?
I've expressed what the ABA is doing.
That is the ABA's position, as expressed by their website. Against which groups do you have implicit biases?
The ABA believes that it's important to always
Are you going to filibuster? Because it doesn't make you sound very good. I'm going to ask you again, against which groups do you have implicit biases?
It's important to always examine everyone's point of view and where they may need to consider.
It is. What about your point of view?
I am here as the president of the American Bar Association.
And I'm asking you what your implicit biases are.
The ABA is an entity.
Have you reflected on your implicit biases?
I think about how I operate
What are they?
the world constantly.
Would you like to explain to us what they are?
I am here speaking on behalf of the ABA and the ABA.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I know some people can take a skeptical view of things like that, where they're just like, oh, yeah, we're owning the libs, but we're not actually. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I understand that point of view. But Brandon Gill, you can't deny that he's not skilled at owning the libs and pointing out this insanity, absolute insanity. But I'll also add that none of what we already know being pointed out is going to stop what could potentially happen to the midterms if we do not have a Congress that actually starts delivering for the American people and codifying an agenda. And also, we got to obviously pull out of the Middle East. It's all a total disaster. Clips like this are great. I mean, I really, really, really like them, but it's not going to change the midterms. Only actual action it will do. I mean, case in point, I've been saving this clip of Senator Jeff Flake from Oklahoma. This is actually a perfect segue from one to the next.
Right now, the leadership in both houses are bungling everything, sir. I say that with all due respect, and we are personal friends. It's not, but you're bungling everything. Nothing is getting done. Your messaging is non-existent. You've lost your swag, your swagger, your riz, or whatever the young people say. No one knows what the heck you're doing, sir. They had no idea.
Yeah, you're welcome. And this is part of the challenge we've got with all of our media friends out there that continue to be able to beat up on Republicans and say Republicans are all the problem. But apparently the socialist Democrats in New York City, they seem to be perfect because most conservative media right now is beating up on Republicans and just ignoring the socialists who are running rampant all over the country. So
okay, I'm going to be real here, guys. I don't care about the socialists. I don't care about the socialists, which we all know are actually communists, okay? I don't care about them because we're the ones with power right now, and we know who they are. I really honestly do not understand this. Like, this is why I haven't really covered Mamdani. I haven't really covered all of this stuff very much. I wasn't really interested in the Spencer Pratt thing. I knew they were going to steal it from him. Our cities are gone, folks. Like, barring actually sending in the National Guard and militarizing these cities and bringing them to order, they are gone, okay? I'm not really as concerned about that. We know what they want to do. We know who they are. So what? So what? We, the voters, have done everything that is to be expected of us, handing control of both houses and the White House. This is not, you're not going to lose the midterms, Jeff Flake, because because we just weren't educated as to who the Democrat socialists were or who the communists were. I am sorry. We all lived through COVID. We know how quickly things can go from freedom to totalitarianism based on fear. We know all of that, how we know about the censorship. We know who they are. We know about their woke sex religion. We rejected it in 2024. We actually rejected it in 2020, but we rejected it in 2024. And this guy has the gall to tell you and me, I'm sorry, this does not make you mad? This guy has the gall to tell you, well, that's because you're beating up on Republicans and you're not paying attention to the Democratic Socialists. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, it's a game to him, right? Like, take some responsibility. And here's the real truth. Jeff Flake isn't a conservative. He's not America First or MAGA or whatever the label. Like, This guy is controlled by the donors, the same donors that won't let us pass a bill banning the genital mutilation of children that mimics Donald Trump's initial order when he got in office. The same donors that control Jeff Flake don't want that to happen. They don't want the SAVE Act. They don't want secure borders. They certainly don't want a border wall. They don't want the same donors that we don't want the deportations of our farm workers who are illegals or our hotel workers who are illegals. Those are the same donors that are, that own Jeff Flake, that have impeded every movement to get to the domestic agenda that we were promised, including no new wars.
So I look back on what happened with the One Big Beautiful Bill. I look at the housing bill we just passed. There's a lot of things that are going on.
This guy brings up the Big Beautiful Bill. This guy brings up the BBB. That was years ago at this point, and in terms of a voter. I mean, I know it was last year, but in terms of a voter's mind, that might as well have been 10 years ago. Nobody cares about that. And also, what did we get from the BBB? I know you, Jeff Flake, got a lot. All your buddies got a lot. It actually triggered the divorce between Donald Trump and Elon Musk because you guys refused to put any of his cuts in the bill. You ran our populist billionaire out of Washington, D.C., the populist billionaire that actually helped secure the electoral victory with his money and influence. People like Jeff Flake ran him out of town for exposing the corruption, but also wanting to actually do something about said corruption. Unbelievable. This guy.
Nobody has attacked Mondami more than I have, for heaven's sake. That isn't the point.
I wasn't saying that just about you. I was saying
that isn't the point.
This is the challenge that we're up against right now.
What is it that your policy is? Senator Langford, my friend, what is your policy?
Sorry.
Where the tax?
I've been calling this guy Jeff Flake. I know that's Arizona. My bad. This is Langford from Oklahoma. Flake was Arizona. Sorry, this guy reminds me of Jeff Flake. It's Senator Langford. Thanks for catching that in the comments.
Cuts. Where are the spending cuts? Where's the waste, fraud, and corruption reduction? Where is all of that? Where is the reconciliation bill? Where's the straight talk and messaging for the midterms? Where's the growth messaging? Where's the we're going to make it better for taxpayers and working folks messaging? Come on, Senator.
It's kind of hard to do that when you guys have the majority to do that right now.
Glad to be able to take it on, Larry. Glad, and again, you and I are friends. We've talked through all this stuff before. So let's just start with last year and what's coming out right now on all the tax policy. Obviously, tax rates didn't go up. We dealt with permanent expensing for all of our businesses and trying to be able to make sure they're growing. They're growing. The reason we're actually dealing with growth right now, you are an expert on this, you know it full well, is because the changes we made in last year's tax bill. We'd love to do a lot more on that, and we will be able to do a lot more on that, but we're still getting...
Oh, my goodness. Darlene Dempsey, this is great. This is the quote of the week. This is the comment of the week, that Senator Langford looks like a blonde Herman Munster. Bravo.
All of those things implemented right now. The housing bill that we just passed starts a whole different process of taking the federal regulations, trying to make housing cheaper for everybody. Right now, all the different pieces on fraud are being implemented on SNAP, on the food stamp fraud that's been happening around the country. That's being implemented right now. That is billions of dollars in savings. It's also putting work requirements on individuals and taking away the rights of people that are illegally present in the United States to be able to get these extra benefits. All those are things that are happening right now because Republicans actually put those in place. So there's a lot of things that are going on.
The One Big Beautiful Bill is good. Okay, nobody fought for that harder than I did. But that was a year ago. What have you done for me lately? What have you done this year? Okay,
so
the point is, and let me ask you,
let's take the housing bill.
I think that, by the way, let's take the housing bill. You've done nothing on the tax side. It's mostly spending. The regulatory stuff is local. You can't control that. The housing bill, frankly, was an Elizabeth Warren special. Okay, and I don't think it's going to help them one single bit. Getting mortgage rates down would be more important than anything in there.
True.
But you're not helping people.
We got the 50-year
You're not helping
mortgage
people with their mortgages. See, if you sell a home, if an empty nester sells a home, they have to pay a humongous capital gains tax on the inflation was Joe Biden's inflation or COVID inflation, whatever. They're not getting a break. You're not inflation indexing that. You didn't raise the allowance for capital gains. It should have gone to $1 million or even $2 million, for heaven's sakes, to offset the inflation of the last 30 years. This could have been done. When you talk about, you're saying what food stamps and so forth, what new legislation have you proposed that takes out all the people that are fraudulently receiving Medicaid benefits, Medicare benefits, hospice benefits, and yes, food stamp benefits? And why are you spending more money on farmers that have already received enormous amounts of money? I mean, after all, this stuff, where are you draining the swamp, Senator Langford? That's what people are asking.
Let me walk through those if you'll give me a chance to be able to talk through it.
If
Medicaid,
you give me a
we just made
chance,
major changes on Medicaid.
He's giving you a
and
chance.
Again, individuals that are not legally present
Give me a
off of
chance.
that made major changes in Medicaid and actually adding a work requirement just like there are on other benefits on that. That is actually bringing people off welfare and putting them to work on that. We're already seeing that in place. We talked about the food stamps and what we're doing on the fraud piece on that. Right now, Dr. Oz just met with him 2 weeks ago. They've just closed down a ton of hospices. We're able to bring that law. We're legislating.
That's me not giving him a chance. What does Larry Kudlow say?
Correct, but you said nothing's been done on that. I want to identify something that has been done, but it was billions of dollars in changes on
You
those
all are
things.
talking about continuing resolutions, and you're talking about another reconciliation bill. And I want to know is what is going on in those bills? Because we've learned a lot in the past year about waste, fraud, and corruption. So I'm asking you, what are you doing now to look, I know Emmett Oz is doing the Lord's work. I like the fact that Robert Kennedy has taken $1 billion out. I understand that, but those aren't codified. That's not new legislation. That could be overturned by a Democratic Congress. If you're going to have a reconciliation bill, Senator, you've got to put this stuff into it, and it's not going into it. I don't even think the Senate leadership wants a reconciliation bill, does it? And there's no one in the Senate leadership talking about cutting taxes.
Yeah. So John Thune, James Langford, all this ilk. I mean, the filibuster is just terrible. These guys, they want to keep the unconstitutional paperwork filibuster so that they don't have to come out against the American people's agenda. That's what it is. They love this. They love the filibuster. And honestly, it has done so much terrible things for this country, even when Democrats are in power. So, well, when the Democrats get in power, they could pass their crazy agenda with 51 votes. Yeah, they could. And we could actually experience their ideas and reject them. All that 60-vote threshold does is keep us from actually experiencing somebody's idea and then saying, well, that was a bad idea. We don't want to do that again. And it's all about legalized theft, legalized grift, the Tammany men of New York on steroids. That's all this is, and it's rigged. And we need to get back to saying that. We need to get back to saying that the system is rigged against the American people. And we need to do something about it. But these people up there like Langford, they don't want to do anything about it. That's the last thing they want to do. Folks, it's been a great 10 hours this week of broadcasting with you here on LFA TV, as well as the Paul Harrell Program YouTube page. We really do appreciate it. I want to remind everybody to have a blessed Lord's Day this weekend. And if you go to church, have a blessed day. And if you don't go to church, find a church that preaches about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and his mighty ability to save sinners, and go to church and worship him together with other believers. And I pray that you do. And we will see you back here on Monday. God bless everybody out there, and we'll see you then.